10. So we can read Sanskrit. Anya devahur vidyaya.
Anya devahur vidyaya.
Yadahur vidyaya.
Yadahur vidyaya.
Jeshushu madiranam.
Iti sushrumadhiranam.
Yena stad vichachakshire.
Yenastat vichachakshire.
Okay, you're on.
Anya devahur vidyaya.
Anya devahur vidyaya.
Yadahur vidyaya.
Yadahur vidyaya.
Iti sushrumadhiranam.
Jeshushu madiranam.
Yena vichachakshire.
Yena stad vichachakshire. I'd like to read the translation. Deepa.
The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience.
Okay. Okay, so we're continuing the purport. We read a little bit more of the purport last week. So we're up to where it says nationalism. So just refreshing on last week. So we got through those 18 items of knowledge mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And then we read from a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And in that song, he explains that material knowledge is a manifestation of Maya, of the illusory energy, and it makes an ass. It makes an ass out of the soul. So one becomes very ignorant, being educated in material knowledge or nescience. So, and Prabhupada explained in the purport some of the defects of modern education. We read a bit about that how young people at school, they don't have any respect for the older generation, and we've all seen that or heard about that. So the young students, they don't respect the teachers or the parents or the elders anymore. So he mentioned that, and about how scientists are creating weapons to destroy the world. So this is one result of modern education and knowledge, is that people are just becoming more violent and destructive and accelerating death. So that's not good. And that in the modern education, there's no concept of brahmachari or celibacy. So it means they're not controlling the senses. There's no concept of controlling sex desire or any of the other senses also. And also that people are taught religion just very superficially, just doing rituals and that, but they don't understand the meaning behind it, which is to love God. So that idea of focusing on developing your love for God, which of course included within that is, if you love God, you should love everyone, because everyone's part of God and God loves everyone. But that's not taught, in modern religion. It's just like a social gathering. People get together and sometimes they drink and eat a lot and things like that, and they sing a few songs, but they don't really understand any of the substance there. So we read a little bit about that. Prabhupada was talking about some of the defects of modern education and how it just increases the ignorance of people. So we'll be reading a bit more about the defects of modern civilization. So yeah, if you'd like to continue, for it says nationalism.
Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of nescience by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets.
Yeah, we can stop there.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, this is another result of modern education. Prabhupada's pointing out here is that we develop often a mentality of nationalism, which means being very proud of your country. That I'm an American, I'm an Australian, I'm an Indian, I'm a Kiwi or whatever like that. So you become very nationalistic, very country minded. So then Prabhupada says that no one considers this tiny earth as just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. So why do you think he says that after talking about nationalism? Okay, so just think, we're proud of our country, of we were born, that I was born in New Zealand, or I was born in wherever, India or Malaysia or wherever we're born in. So we're proud of that. So, and then he's saying about this is just a tiny speck in space. So what's the connection there? Why does he say that? That this planet is just like a tiny speck of dust in space?
To kind of make you see or understand that we're just so insignificant in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah. See, because education, the result is we become proud. I'm so proud of being an American. Like when I went to America, I've never seen so many flags in my life. They're hanging off the buildings, off the boats, off the cars, off everything. There's an American flag. It means they're so proud of being an American, that this is the best country, America. Why? Why is it the best country? Because I was born here. So we're so arrogant, so proud. So then Prabhupada's pointing out that this, not just this country, but this whole, and of course this country is just one tiny speck on the earth, but that the whole earth is just a tiny like speck of dust in the vast universe, so that sort of puts it more in perspective. So, as we read real education, the first point mentioned of the 18 is humility, that we should be very humble, and not, and the second point is not being proud. So, but modern education is the opposite. We're so arrogant, we're so proud, of our body, of our country that the body was born in, and all these things. We're so arrogant. And of course, that pride and arrogance is such a big obstacle for us developing real knowledge, because we don't want to hear from any spiritual realized person, because we already think we know everything, we're great, you can't tell me anything, I've got a BSc, PhD, MBA and all this stuff, and we're so proud of our knowledge and everything. So this is a big stumbling block. What modern education is, the result is people become so proud, but the result is that they can't take a spiritual life. They can't, they become so arrogant. And then Prabhupada points out that that God has made, he talks about the planets as like lumps of matter floating in the air, and that God has made them completely self-sufficient in themselves. Means everything that they need, everything that the living entities need on those planets is provided there. What do we need? We need water. Water's there. We need air. Air is there. We need sunlight. Sunlight is there. We need food. Food is there. So God has provided everything that we need, and that's actually related to the invocation of this book, because Prabhupada's saying they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. So the invocation goes Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuchachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Puranameva Vashishyate. So that's before the first verse mantra. There's an invocation. So that verse is saying that God is a complete whole, and everything that emanates from God, all the parts are also perfectly equipped, wholes. Everything they need, they're perfectly equipped. So he's complete, but also the emanations from him are also complete. So we see that this material world is complete. Everything is here in this world that we need to live. So that, and no one thinks, well, God is so amazing that he's just set us up, with everything, all the necessities of life provided for us. He's maintaining right, from the tiny ant up to the massive elephant and the whale in the ocean. Everything that everyone needs is perfectly provided, but no one thinks about that. And then he mentions about the drivers of the spaceship, that we're very proud, we sent an astronaut to the moon or to Mars or something. We're so proud that, we send this tiny little vehicle, in space. But no one is proud that he can make whole planets float in space. Forget about a little spaceship, but he makes massive, we look in the sky at night, millions and millions of planets floating in the air, and they never crash into each other. They never fall out of orbit. They never run out of gas. They're not like our ones. And but no one thinks about that. So that's why he's mentioning these points, that we don't give any glory, any credit, any respect to God, but we give respect to, like, our fellow countrymen. Oh, my fellow Americans, they have gone to the moon or whatever, and we're so nationalistic and so proud of each other and stuff like that. Oh, my family did this, or my country did this, but no one said, my God has done this. No one gives any, and he's the one that should get the real credit. I mean, who gave the scientists the intelligence to create the spaceships in that? God. We give a Nobel Prize to the scientists for their achievement in medicine or science or whatever like that. But does anyone ever think that, how about we give credit to the person that created the brain of the scientist? With the brain of the scientist created something very wonderful, but we never think a step back, but who created the brain of the scientist? Millions of scientists. And who created that brain? That brain we should give some credit. And that's the brain of God. The brain of God that can keep planets, floating in space, that can create the human body with this amazing brain and amazing eyes and amazing, different features. And he can create birds that fly and fish that can go in the ocean, and tigers can run very fast, and all this. He creates all these different things, but no one gives him any credit. And we give credit to ourselves or to other people, like that. So that's why he's mentioning these points about we're proud of the wrong things. We're proud of ourselves, but we don't have any pride for God, that he's so great. We don't give any greatness, isn't it? I mean, that's what the Muslims do, right? That Allah means God is great. So this is correct. We should give credit that God is great. But usually in modern education, we give credit to, like I said, to our countrymen, ourselves, the scientists, everything like that, the politicians, the leaders, like that. You want to say anything about that, Deepa?
No, well, it's just not really. I mean, it's.
But do you see that happening in society?
Oh, of course. In fact, I'm doing a course in coaching.
Okay.
And I've just been listening to lots of coaching sessions, and and sort of thinking about what area of coaching I would like to, how I would like to structure my coaching. And I'm thinking, and I've been thinking about to slide in some spiritual thing, and to uplift and motivate and kind of throw a few seeds of that in to so that it, I don't know, just to sow some seed.
Yeah, why not? If you can, if you have the authority to do that, then do it. You have the scope, then go for it. Yeah, because it's beneficial. It's beneficial for
not in very specific terms, but kind of in a general, like way, just to get people thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful service you can do for others if you can put some spiritual knowledge there amongst all the mundane stuff, amongst all the material. Put some spiritual knowledge there. And it's relevant, that's much needed in today's society. People are starving for the spiritual knowledge. They have so much material knowledge, but it's just making their lives worse. Now it's come to the point of insanity. We've become so materialistic, advanced, technologies and everything like that. But it's made people so unhappy, so depressed. So the solution is we need to balance that. We're not saying throw the material knowledge away, but we need to balance it with some spiritual knowledge. Because all the knowledge is just related to the body. There's no knowledge about the soul, and the soul's, that's who we are. That's why we're starving. The society is like spiritually starving. So people are crying out for it, but they don't know what they're crying out for. But they're searching for something, and that's the spiritual knowledge. And that'll give real relief and real happiness to the people, for sure, if you give them some authentic spiritual knowledge. And you don't have to be a great scholar or anything to do it. You just have to present something from the scriptures. Prabhupada's already given us so much in English and everything we can understand from the Sanskrit, and just present that, in a way, in our own words or whatever. But you just present what he's given, or read something from some quote from the scriptures, and that's a great service. Yeah. So yeah, go for it. You have our full encouragement from here.
I'll let you know how it's going, but I've only just started, so yeah, still a long way to go.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. The next paragraph.
You like me to read? Yeah.
Yeah.
There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also, as infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. We small creatures are trying to dominate these unlimited planets. Thus, we take repeated births and death and are generally frustrated by old age and disease. The span of human life is scheduled for about 100 years, although it is gradually decreasing to 20 or 30 years. Really? Oh no.
That's the prediction towards the end of Kali Yuga. Now we're just at the beginning of Kali Yuga, but the beginning of Kali Yuga, it said it'll be about 100 years, but towards the end of Kali Yuga, about 20 to 30 years. That prediction is there in the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the 12th canto talks about Kali Yuga. So that's coming. Prabhupada's not just made that up. That's from the scriptures. Yeah, and it's like you said, gradually decreasing. So it's not going to suddenly go from 100 to 20 or 30, but slowly it's dropping. And Prabhupada points out that his grandmother lived to about, I think he said 92, 93. And then he said his father lived to 80 something, and then like that. So he's pointing out that even in one generation, it dropped about 10 years, he could see. I mean, I tell you what, you know, even in the Bible, it's Christmas, so let's talk about the Bible. So in the Bible, it mentions that there was a person living around around 2,000 years ago, because that's when Christ was present. So there was a person living around 2,000 years ago that lived for 900 years.
Wow.
900 years, because you see, and that matches up, because you see in Dwapara Yuga, the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago, and before that is Dwapara Yuga. So in that age, people lived for 1,000 years. So you see, even 2,000 years ago, it had dropped. You know, there was 1,000 years, and then it had gone down to 900 years. You know, someone was living. And like that. And then we see, you know, like 2,000 years later, it's about, you know, you're lucky if, you know, you make it 100 years. And then, but of course, you know, getting back to nescience or material knowledge, our modern education is saying, due to modern science and technology, we are increasing our lifespan. But it's actually not true. It's reducing, not increasing. And one thing we could say is that to verify that is that, okay, I mean, you say, you know, someone, you know, people living now 80, 90 years, but if the last 10 years is in hospital or on some life support system and on medicated and everything, so all the pills are keeping you, you know, going, and you know, you're on painkillers and all this kind of stuff, then you don't even know whether you're Arthur or Martha. Then what kind of lifespan is that? Is that a real lifespan where you're just kept alive, you know, on machines and everything like that? You can't live without all the stuff. You know, you've got pipes sticking out of your arm and everything like that, and you're all drugged up. So that's one point. Another point is that, what about all the abortions? What about, you know, the millions and millions and millions of children that never even see the light of day? I mean, if you took those statistics into account, which is basically what's their lifespan? 0. So if you had millions and millions of zeros, you know, what would that do to the lifespan average, to the average lifespan? You know, it's not very long. I mean, yeah, the ones that do manage to make it outside and see the sunshine, that are not killed inside the womb, yeah, they might live to 60, 70, 80, 90 or whatever like that. But what about all those zeros? That brings it down, you know, very low. So, and then, like I said, the tail end is usually very miserable. So what kind of life is that? You know, it's not a real kind of life. And but we see that, you know, that previously people used to mainly live in villages and things like that, and a lot of them live very natural, healthy lives. And like in the village, right, they're working outside, harvesting rice and milking the cow, whatever, and suddenly they drop down dead. That's often what happened. Did there used to be any hospitals and stuff? Hardly. You know, people would just, they would just take some herbal medicine and stuff like that, and usually they were fit and healthy right to the end. I would say that's a better lifespan, and they were drinking very pure water and breathing natural air and eating organic food. You know, there's many records of people living very long, healthy lives in those sort of situations. Like Prabhupada said about his grandmother, you know, lived till 90 something years and so forth. And, you know, it's very rare that someone makes it to 100 these days. I think you get a letter from the Queen. If you make it to 100, you get a letter from the Queen. So it's not very common, you know, like that. So, yeah, modern science would cheat us and say that due to science our lifespan is increasing. But actually, from the Vedas, we understand, and it makes sense, it's logical, that actually our lifespans are reducing. And after distributing so many vaccines around the world, I guarantee it's going to decrease even more, you know, because they're trying to put more chemicals into people's bodies than what's already in there. So I wouldn't be surprised if the average lifespan drops even more. So this is the sign of the times. I mean, it's predicted here. It's going to go towards 20 to 30 years. So what's something we can take from this? You know, that, you know, the nature of the material world is birth, old age, disease, and death. And then again, take birth. Prabhupada mentions repeated birth and death. You know, so this is real knowledge to understand. This is the real situation in the material world. It's a miserable place, a temporary place with birth and death, old age and disease. So we should try to reawaken our love for God and serve God and go back to God. And that's the real purpose of human life. But if we forget God and think we can stay here forever and enjoy, and like they say at the end of a lot of movies, right? And then they walk away into the sunset and they lived happily ever after, right? But that's illusion. That's nescience. That's illusion. That's not true. You know, so we shouldn't become proud and think, yes, our lifespans are increasing. We're getting rid of diseases. We've got fantastic hospitals. You know, we're so advanced and, you know, fantastic and everything. No, we shouldn't be proud like that. We should be very humble and realize that, you know, we're in this material world as a punishment for, like Prabhupada starts off saying, that we're here, we're tiny parts of God, but we've come here because we're trying to dominate the unlimited planets. We've come here to play God. That's why we're here. Why are we here? Because we've tried to play God. We want to be the dominant person. God is the real dominant person, but we're trying to play his role. This is my planet and my country and my family and my business and my money, and, you know, we're trying to dominate everything, and everything is for me to enjoy. And that's the reason why we're here, and that's the cause of our suffering. So we should give up this attitude of trying to dominate. This is the cause of our suffering, of wanting to lord it over the material world, wanting to dominate and lord it over. Prabhupada quotes the saying that the Lord of all that I survey. That's an old saying, the Lord of all that I survey. So I used to be a land surveyor, so I used to think about that when I used to do surveying. That we're so proud thinking that I'm the Lord of everything that I can see around me, and it's for my enjoyment. But this is the cause of our downfall, that we want to try to enjoy in this material world. So yeah, this is the real knowledge. But yeah, false knowledge is given to us, and we think that we're dominant beings, isn't it? We're taught that human beings are the best species, the most important species. We can do whatever we like. With any other species, isn't it? Well, I mean, I was taught that you can just kill anything you want. If you want to kill cows, you can do that. If you want to kill sheep, if you want to kill pigs, kill anything, even human beings, and enjoy that. They want to exploit everything. So this is the mentality in the material world due to Maya. The soul being in Maya takes up this role, trying to imitate God, but that's what causes us so much problems. Any thoughts come to mind about that, Deepa?
Yeah. No, I mean, no, not really. In the sense, I know that there's lots of ignorant people and they're all under Maya, but it's like they know not any better. And I'm just, yeah, it's like how to whip them out of that, or how to instill some curiosity, or to question. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And Prabhupada points out, because he talks more about nationalism in this one too, and he says how countries make big plans to chop up, different pieces of the earth and make lines, Okay, we'll make a line here, and this is a line between America and Canada. So we'll have Canada on that side of the line, America on this side, or, we'll have India on this side, Pakistan on the other side. But what's the result? We're making all these lines, we're creating, that line wasn't there. It's all concocted in our mind. There's no line between India and Pakistan. Who made that? But humans made that. But as soon as you make that line, what does it create?
Division and, a sense of belonging.
Yeah, division and wars and fighting. Now we've created another line, another division. What's that? Just recently, in the last few weeks and months.
COVID and non-COVID.
Yeah, vaccinated and non-vaccinated. So that's another line we've made. And is that going to create peace and love and harmony? No. It's going to create anxiety, like Prabhupada mentions. Yet for this purpose, each and every nation has become a source of anxiety for others. More than 50% of the nation's energy is devoted to defense measures and thus spoiled. So it's just going to, we know it's going to result in, as soon as you try to divide people, it's going to create envy and jealousy and anger and all this kind of stuff. And it's going to lead to fighting and anger and wars and violence and we spend money on defense and everything. And it's just happening more and more. What we should be doing is removing all lines and creating unity, that there's one God and we're all servants of God. There's no one's higher or lower than anyone else. We're all servants of God, and it's all God's property. That's the first verse of the Upanishad, that everything is owned and controlled by God, and he gives everyone a quota of his property. So if everyone thought that then there would be no division between America and Canada and New Zealand and Australia, and everyone can go wherever they like. It's just all God's property. It's not my property. It's not your property. It's God's property. And he's given everyone a share of his property to utilize for their maintenance, to maintain themselves and their families. So everyone has a right, for what they need to survive. And if everyone thought like that and lived in a very united way, centered around God, then there would be real peace and harmony. But as soon as you, create flags, different flags and different lines, then immediately you create wars and friction and tension and so much anxiety, what happened when they made that line, between India and Pakistan? So many people died. There was when all those Hindus from the Pakistan side tried to get into India, and all the Muslims from the Indian side went to Pakistan, so many got killed. As soon as you divide, then it's going to lead to, just death and destruction and everything like that. So, but Prabhupada mentions before they made that line that Hindus and Muslims used to live together peacefully, doesn't it? But because of politics, because of the politicians and politics, they created that. What's that?
No, because of Nehru at that time. Nehru, because of...
Yeah, that politician. Prabhupada mentions that before that, then he had so many Muslim neighbors, and they used to, eat with each other and celebrate each other's festivals together and everything like that. Everyone lived together peacefully, and No one felt bad about anyone else because they're a different religion or anything. They lived together in harmony, but the politicians created that. They created that, you know, and so much fighting and everything. So this is just the creation of our from our ignorance and Maya, being in Maya, and you know, separated from God consciousness and spiritual knowledge. So that's a great tragedy.
Just if somehow, you know, someone, I don't know who, but I don't know, it's like from top down, you know, if the leaders, if we can get some key leader at the top, and
True.
and then, you know, it kind of then will just flow down. Because isn't that, I mean, it's something like what Prabhupada did, Srila Prabhupada. I mean, you know, when he went to America, I mean, he was told, he was asked to go by, but you know, then from through them, he, you know, his hope, you know, the hope was that it'll attract the Indians to go back to source, to go back to what was originally, I mean, what they originally were meant to know. And then that sort of thing, like, you know, it's like to somehow to cascade it down to the masses. I'm just thinking if we can get somehow like leaders to do this.
That's the ideal. That's the ideal. I mean, why did Krishna come to this earth 5,000 years ago? To remove the bad leader, Duryodhan, and put in the good leader, Yudhisthira. So, and when Yudhisthira was ruling the world, because 5,000 years ago, there was one king, was the supreme ruler of the whole planet. And that was that ruling king resided in Hastinapur, which is now known as New Delhi. So that was like the capital of the whole planet, and everything was Vedic civilization. You know, 5,000 years ago, there was no division of countries or anything like that. And there were subordinate kings, but they were all subordinate to the one main king, who was at one point was Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and then his son Duryodhan, like that. And they were like, you know, anti-God, anti-Krishna. So, and they weren't doing very good in terms of, you know, ruling the citizens towards, you know, liberation and everything, of course. So they were very materialistic. So Krishna came and arranged the Battle of Kurukshetra to kill all of them and could bring all the demoniac kings together and kill them all, and then put Yudhisthira, a pious devotee king, as the leader. And then everything flourished after that. Everything flourished. Of course, in due course of time, you know, Krishna left the planet. His mission was finished. And then Yudhisthira and his brothers, they sort of lost interest. They loved Krishna, and Krishna had gone. So they didn't want to continue much longer. So they trained up, you know, Parikshit, who was the grandson of Arjuna. They trained him up to be a king. And then when he was trained up, they handed over the kingdom to him and said, see you later. And then they went up to the Himalayas, and from there they went back to the spiritual world. So, but yeah, and then after Parikshit, then, you know, things started to fall apart. He was cursed at one point to be bitten by a snake and die in 7 days, and then Kali Yuga had started. That was the beginning of Kali Yuga after Krishna left. So yeah, things started to get divided and everything. But yeah, that's ideal. When you have a good leader, then when the person on top is good, then Prabhupada explains that everything underneath it is good. If the person on top is bad, then everything underneath is bad. Like they say, one rotten apple spoils the barrel. You know, so especially the person on top. Actually, when Duryodhan was born, just as born baby, there was a prediction, there was an omen that, because they saw different inauspicious signs. There was shooting stars in the sky when he took birth, which is a bad sign, like comets, like shooting stars. And there was donkeys making the noise all over the place. Hee haw, hee haw, hee haw. You know, so there's different inauspicious things, you know, like a cow with blood coming out of the udder. So all these different bad signs were happening at the same time when Juridon was born. So all the learned people that had real knowledge, they said, I mean, this guy is going to cause the destruction of your whole dynasty, the whole Kuru dynasty. So just kill him now, kill him.
Ah.
They said, kill the baby. So all the sages and that, they said, kill the baby now, otherwise the whole dynasty is going to be destroyed. We can tell this is a really bad child, you know, bad omen. But they, of course, the parents were very attached. You know, they're very attached, and they didn't kill him. And then eventually it happened. Then because of Juridon, the whole Kuru dynasty was wiped off the face of the earth. You know, one bad leader, and then everyone else suffers like that. So what you're saying is true. I mean, that's ideal. But of course, now in Kali Yuga, we don't have monarchy, one leader. We have democracy. Prabhupada said democracy means demon crazy.
Oh my God.
He
Yeah.
broke it. Instead of democracy, he said demon crazy. So just a bunch of crazy demons, yeah. So yeah, it's not very good. Anyway, we try our best in this difficult situation. It said there's one saving grace of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga's many faults. Kali dosa nidhai rajan, many faults in Kali Yuga, but it said there's one good quality. But fortunately, this one good quality overrides all the bad qualities. Do you know what the good quality of Kali Yuga is?
We have the Maha Mantra.
Yeah, that's it. The Maha Mantra, just by the Maha Mantra, Sankirtan, can completely give us liberation. We can get liberated from the material just by the Maha Mantra, just by coming together and chanting God's names. So, and we would say that this is Christmas. So we would say if the Christians come together and chant the name of Jehovah or whatever, and the Muslims come together and chant Allah's names, of course in the Quran it says 99 names of Allah. So there's so many names of God, you know, and we have Vishnu Sahasranam, which is 1,000 names of Vishnu. The Muslims say 99 names of Allah. Christians, they also have different names, Yahweh, Jehovah, some say Christ, you know, like that. So different names of God. So this is the process recommended in Kali Yuga. If we come together and chant God's names, then we can get completely freed from all miserable situations, get liberated from the material world, go back to Godhead. So that's the saving grace of Kali Yuga. Previously, it's very difficult to get liberated. Previously, people would have to spend, you know, thousands or tens of thousands of years doing severe austerities and sacrifices and everything, which are not possible now because we have short lives and we can't do any austerities and all these things, sacrifices, temple worship, we can't do. So it's made very easy. Just even a child can chant Hare Krishna. If you're young, if you're old, if you're educated, if you're, you know, uneducated, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're healthy, if you're sick, if you're a man or a woman, nothing matters. You just chant. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you are. You just chant, and you're going to get liberated, go back to Godhead. So that overrides all the bad things. Like we have bad leaders, so that overrides all the bad things. So don't worry about the bad leaders. But I mean, of course, still, I mean, we should still hope that there will become good leadership. Then it will be even more better. Because a good leader would say that, okay, from now on, I make a mandate. I'm the leader. I make it a mandate. Everyone has to chant Hare Krishna. That's the new mandate. So then it would go even more better, you know. So, but even if that doesn't happen, that's okay. We'll just chant Hare Krishna here in the forest or whatever. But if there's a good leader, then it goes even more better. So.
As we chant, does it need to be in group chanting, or can we chanting?
No, it doesn't need to, but it's said it's more powerful. Like obviously, you know, it's more love, more bhakti, you know. One person's bhakti, you know, chanting God's names, that's good. But two people, that's 200%, you know, and then, you know, four people, you know, then 400%, you know. So it's just multiplying, quadrupling, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, multiplying like that. Do you remember like in Mayapur, what was that chanting like in Mayapur with
Oh,
5,000 people in the room? Do you remember the feeling there?
oh, that was electric. That was
Yeah,
magic.
that was electric, because it's not one person, it's 5,000,
That was
all chanting together. And you just lift off the ground, just start dancing automatically. It's just so ecstatic. And God is just so pleased, all of his children coming together. Can you imagine, say one child, 10 children, say in the family, say one child gives some appreciation to the parents will be happy. But what if all 10
oh,
hold hands and come together, say, Mum and Dad, we love you so much. You're just the best mum and dad in the world, and we love you, all the whole family. They're going to be just, the top of the world. It's going to get all the blessings, So the more is better, the more of God's children come together, the more God will be pleased. And the more God's pleased, then the more we're going to be happy. That's the Krishna conscious formula. We just all work together to try to please God, knowing that if God's pleased, then we're all going to be happy and our lives are perfect and successful. And we know on the other side, if God's peeved off with us, if we upset him and if he's not happy, then how can you expect to be happy? You're not going to be happy. There's going to be more COVID, more diseases, more disasters, more fires and droughts. And, if we keep, making God unhappy, if no one says his names or, everyone, is killing each other and everything. And what do you expect? It's only going to be, our lives are going to suffer, so that's the thing.
when I have had small discussions along these lines with uh with well, one friend comes to mind, and but she said, I mean, she's a fairly spiritually inclined as well, but she said, oh, I mean, God is great. God, he won't, he's not going to get upset or jealous, or I mean, not to say jealous, but if you don't do properly, that, or that if you don't take that time or spend, so much, do a certain quota, that it's going to upset him, and that he's not going to give, or be nice to you in that sense, like, um
Well, I mean, you just said in the very beginning
yeah.
that when your son went against your advice, your husband's and Ben's advice, your advice, and associated, with like that, with a sick kid and everything. And how did you feel?
I mean, we didn't even know till after, when he fell ill and all this, and he is like, oh, when he came back, only then we knew that he actually done something that we didn't know about, like, so. But yeah, it was too late. But
Yeah,
we were
but I
just,
mean, how did you feel though? Did you feel good that he went against what you desired, or you felt bad, or you didn't care?
oh, we were worried, we were disappointed, because
Yeah.
we. Mm,
So where do all those feelings come from? I mean, we're, like Prabhupada said, we're infinitesimal parts and parcels of God.
mm,
So when you're acting in the role of a guardian, of a maintainer, a protector like that, and the person, a parent, and then they don't follow your advice and they suffer, then you feel bad. You might feel disappointed or angry or whatever like that. So where does that all those feelings come from?
mm,
Comes from God. You can understand God also by understanding yourself.
mm, mm.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh yes, no, totally. Now, I
I
was
mean,
just
like for example, right from the beginning of life, we like to play. Where does that playful spirit come from?
from Krishna, because he's
From
always,
Krishna, because Krishna likes to play. That's why we like to play.
yeah.
You know, we like to have a partner, a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Where does that come from?
From Krishna as well.
Comes from Krishna. Krishna has a girlfriend.
Yes.
Like that. So all these propensities, we like our children to be obedient, and because we want them to be happy. We don't want them to suffer, so we give them good advice, and we hope they're going to follow it so that they're going to be happy and avoid suffering. And if they don't follow the advice and they suffer, then how do we feel? We feel bad. So, Krishna is the Supreme Father. He gives his children good advice, do this and don't do that. And if you follow this, you're going to be happy. And, when they don't follow it, he becomes upset, and we're the same, because we're just like a, reflection of him. Of course, we're trying to take his position. And like I said, we're trying to play his role. But still, I mean, we can understand something about him, so when your friend is saying, oh, God doesn't care or whatever, or it doesn't affect him or whatever, that's not true.
Yeah.
God loves us, I'll give you one example. In one class, Prabhupada put his hand up and he said, God feels our suffering just like if we have a pin stuck in our finger. If you have a pin stuck in your hand, right? The finger is just a very small part of the body, right? But the whole body feels it. The whole body feels it when a pin is in the finger, right? So in the same way, we're like God's finger. We're just like a tiny part of God. Imagine like your fingernail. What if you stuck a needle underneath your fingernail? That's painful. So we're like that. We're just a tiny little speck on God, but we're part of him and parcel. We're connected to him. So if we're feeling pain, he feels that. He's not impersonal. He's the most sensitive. He's the most sensitive. So when we go against his good advice and suffer, he becomes unhappy. And but the thing is, he never gives up on us. He keeps trying to help us, even though we refuse to follow his instructions. And he doesn't become angry, but he's always hoping that we're going to turn around to him again and surrender to his instructions and then become happy. And why does he give us this instructions? Is it for his benefit?
For us.
It's for our benefit. I mean, why did you give your son advice? Was it for your benefit? No, it was for his benefit. Don't go and associate with people that have COVID. That was for his benefit, not for your benefit. So that's the thing. So God's giving us advice for our benefit, and we don't follow, then he feels unhappy, not for himself, but for us, that we're suffering, which could have been avoided if we followed his advice, like that. So,
but it would bring Krishna joy too, to have all his parts and parcels.
Of course.
Back
just
to
like
him.
I said, if all the children come together and come together to serve the parents, then the parents are going to be so happy. And if they're all fighting amongst themselves, the parents are going to be very unhappy. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, you have to give a different perspective to your friend.
Yeah. No, that was good. Because at that time I didn't know how to
that example Prabhupada gives of just like the whole body feels a little pinprick in the finger is very good, because that's our relationship with God. We're part of him. So any of the part that's suffering, the whole feels it. The whole feels it. You have to. So God is not unaware of our suffering, and he's not callous to it. He cares, and he feels very compassionate. And that's why God comes to this world out of his love and compassion to save us, as Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, like that he sends his devotees like Jesus Christ. Why was Jesus Christ sent to this world? Prabhupada, out of God's infinite love for us to try to bring us back to the right path. That's because God doesn't like to see us suffering and cares about us. So yeah, God is not just some rock and has no feelings. It's very sensitive, most sensitive.
I would like to see Srila Prabhupada. Oh, but he is already, like how Jesus is, in the whole world. So many people, everyone knows Jesus, whether they're Christians or not. Yeah, for Srila Prabhupada, I hope, I long to see that day that.
That's nice, yeah.
Everyone.
And we are seeing, and we'll see more and more, that he will become more and more famous. Like, after 2,000 years, Jesus is so famous. It wasn't maybe like that immediately. It took some time, but it's become more and more. So, as more and more Prabhupada's books get distributed and more devotees talk to more and more people and more prasadam, more kirtans, then, Prabhupada's fame will become more spread. So that's a nice desire, yeah. That's a lovely desire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm glad we got to have some spiritual talks on this holy day. It's not just a holiday, it's a holy day. We have to make the holidays into holy days. Because most people now, unfortunately, are eating some dead animals and drinking liquor, more than usual. They're always doing that, but doing it more today than other days, which is a shame, because this is the day of any days that we should stop doing those things. But yeah, so at least we're doing something that Jesus will be happy with, talking about God, not killing animals and drinking beer and stuff. So yeah. So this is real service to Jesus, to the spiritual master, and glorifying his Father. Glorifying his Father. So yeah, take care and all the best.
Thank you, and thank you for the personal class. I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Yeah, it's nice to be with you and connected via this technology.
Yeah.
And
I'll probably see you Thursday then, because we're on this Christmas New Year holiday, so I'm not at work on Thursday.
Yeah. But yeah, your work has stopped now anyway, right? For some time, middle of January, you said?
Yeah, I mean, technically yesterday was my last day because I'm on holiday from now till I find something else.